It's time for the Lowell Green Show, originating live on blasttheradio.com. Ask your smart speaker to play Blast the Radio. Live video available on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. The number to call or text is 613-413-2217. And now, telling it like it is, here's Lowell Green.
Oh, thank you, John. I need your help here. I'm having a little bit of trouble with some of this, okay? Look, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we have just about the worst vaccine delivery in the Western world, and as a consequence, thousands are dying needlessly? Don't we have hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of COVID-infected passengers pouring into our freaking airports every single day, spreading deadly variants across the country? Am I not correct in that? Because if I am, how come the bad guy is Doug Ford? He doesn't bring vaccines into the country. Well, he's trying, but that's not his responsibility. He can't shut the airports down. He doesn't make that decision. That's the federal responsibility. But he made some mistakes, which he admitted this morning in a rather tearful apology. I haven't heard any other politicians recently apologizing for mistakes. In fact, our esteemed Prime Minister, the much-loved bearded one, with the lovely curly locks now.
You love that, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I really love the curly, and the hair gets longer and longer. He looks more and more rugged all the time. More and more women fall faint in front of him. I know I'm being insulted, but I'm just a little bit upset. Mm-hmm. And rather than apologize for the fact that we don't have any vaccines in this country, or about the worst in the Western world, he's boasted that he wouldn't do anything differently. He would screw up again, and he's proud of it. So Doug Ford this morning, looking very haggard, by the way. This guy has aged tremendously. I mean, he's obviously taking this to heart, whether you like the guy or you don't. He's worked hard. He's doing his best. He's getting all sorts of advice, good, bad, and different, wrong, right, etc., etc. So he has a press conference this morning. He apologizes for some of the restrictions that he imposed. He says, we got it wrong, admits that. And the criticism pours in. Some of the criticism, as a matter of fact, is suggesting that because he shed a couple of tears, he was talking about how difficult it is when people die and there's no one around to say goodbye. And the guy's emotional. He brought tears to his eyes, bring tears to my eyes. But somehow or other, some critics are now saying he's not emotionally fit for the job. Should be fired because he shed a couple of tears. And then not only that, but then we've got Charlie Angus, for whom I'd always had a lot of respect. I tell you, I can't believe Charlie Angus, the NDP, this is one of the strongest spokesperson for the NDP, drags out the name of Doug's long dead brother, Rob Ford, and uses Rob Ford to criticize the premier. I mean, that is really, 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 really a low blow. Mark Bonikowski writes about it in The Sun today. How low can you go? Charlie Angus. I mean, Rob Ford's been dead 5 years, for God's sake. He had all kinds of problems. No question about it. We all knew that. They were out in the open. Doug Ford did what every good brother should do, try to protect him, try to look after him as best he could. And now suddenly, 5 years after his brother's death, his name is being dragged out to criticize Doug. Dirty, rotten, filthy low blow. But that's just kind of typical, isn't it? Same kind of criticism that would criticize him because he got a little bit of emotion talking about people dying with no loved ones nearby. What the hell's the matter with our media? What's the hell's the matter with our politicians? Meantime, so our beloved Prime Minister, he of the lovely little curls and the beard and so forth, what's he doing in all of this? Is he on the phone? But Doug Ford apparently night and day is on the phone. Ambassadors, high commissioners are trying to get more vaccines. We don't have any vaccines. So he's on the phone night and day trying to get more vaccines. So what's our Prime Minister doing? Is he on the phone trying to get vaccine? No. No, 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 no. The Prime Minister is attacking something that's really, really, really important. Much more important than, 25,000 deaths from COVID. No, no, he made the big, he's puffing, he's great at puffing out his chest. He doesn't really literally pound his chest, but he figuratively does so. He's very adept at pounding his chest in these prideful boasts, okay? So you know what he's boasting this morning? This is what we're going to do. This is what your federal government is always working hard for the working man. We are going to reduce greenhouse emissions by 40% by the year 2030. You think I'm joking? I kid you not. I'm not joking. That's what the Prime Minister was talking about this morning. It's going to reduce greenhouse emissions. That's the big issue here, folks. We're polluting the world. Canada is polluting the freaking world. We are destroying the planet. Stop breathing. Stop popping your pop. Stop popping the lid off your beer, because when that's carbon dioxide. You're polluting the planet when you open your damn beer. But we're going to cut it by 40%. I don't know. Maybe his plan is to maybe that's why he's allowing everybody to come in here from places like Brazil and India, which are racked with COVID, out of control. India's having a terrible. God bless the Indian people. I mean, it's so bad they're running out of oxygen in the hospital. People are dying by the thousands in India every single day. But what happens every single day? At least one, sometimes two flights come in from Delhi. Every single one have one passenger, in many cases more than one passenger, who is already infected with COVID. Well, the Prime Minister says it's just a minor, it's not really a major cause. Oh, I don't understand this. First of all of the COVID infections, the original one, the mutants, all came from outside. They didn't come from here. They came here. I would say 99.99999% in airplanes through the airports. He didn't shut down the airports at all. He didn't even try for the first couple of months. Still allowing flights in from Wuhan, China, for God's sake, 2 months after we found out this is where it came. Anyway, we all know the story. But Trudeau's the good guy. Doug Ford's the bad guy. You know why? Doug Ford, Doug Ford, he announced that he was going to have police make, stops, random stops and so forth. Oh, God. The civil libertarians just went ape over this. Now, mind you, these same civil libertarians are now suggesting that we should stop interprovincial travel. Well, I'm having a little difficulty with this one too, okay? Just a little bit of difficulty. You're opposed to the idea of police stopping people to check where they're going, right? Okay, I have my doubts about that. But I mean, if you're going to stop interprovincial travel, as you're now recommending, wouldn't you have police stop people? Oh, so wait a minute. You're saying that it's wrong? It defies civil liberties if police stop people randomly to ask them where they're going. But it's quite acceptable to have police stop people to say, well, did you come from another province? I don't get it. I don't get why one's bad and the other's good. I just don't get it. But then I don't get a hell of a lot of things. And by the way, when we're talking about some of the people who have made mistakes, because I don't think that any of Doug Ford's mistakes, if they are mistakes, he closed down playground. This was terrible. And but don't forget, he's following the instructions of scientists and health experts and so forth when he makes these decisions. He's not plucking this stuff out of the air. Maybe he probably should have said, he's now admitting that they made a mistake. He certainly made a mistake. Somebody didn't advise him about the fact that, in fact, Gatineau and Ottawa are essentially the same city. I mean, as far as the working person is concerned, somebody forgot to tell him that, I guess. So he made a mistake. He's now admitting it. One of the rare opportunities for a politician to actually apologize for anything, but he's being criticized. But if we're going to criticize, but I don't think any of these decisions cost any lives. I don't think so. It was pretty frustrating to be stopped for an hour or so on some of the bridges coming in from. I grant you that. Damn, it's frustrating if people missed an hour's work, etc. But I don't think it cost any lives. On the other hand, remember Tam, who is still in control, still in charge here? Wasn't she the woman who once told us we shouldn't be wearing masks? Oh. Wasn't it Trudeau who once told us that not to worry about COVID, that it really wasn't serious, that we had nothing to worry about? Oh. Wasn't it Trudeau who refused to shut down flights from China for, well, flights are still coming in from China. He says, well, the security is wonderful, the health restrictions, the isolation. So I'd say, wait a minute, hold it. If these isolations and so forth, I'll be with you in a minute, John. If these isolations are working so well, how come the mutant strains are taking over? Did they just come down, like just suddenly appear? Did you just dip into Lake Ontario and pick up some of these? I don't think so. I think all of these mutants came in from places like Brazil. And by the way, BC is just having a terrible time with the so-called Brazilian variant. Over 2,000 new cases of Brasilia variant now in BC. And here's what we should all be shivering at. They have discovered the variant that is killing, just wildfire in India, is so-called double variant. It has mutated twice to become a very virulent, highly infectious, highly deadly variant. We now have it in Canada. They have discovered a single case apparently in Quebec. How did it get here? Do you think it just flew up the St. Lawrence River? I don't think so. I would imagine it came in on one of those airplanes into one of our international airports, along with all of the other variants that are now taking over in this province. So if, in fact, all of these isolations and security measures are working so freaking well, how come these variants continue to spread? Beats the hell out of me. John, you've got some emails, texts there coming in?
Facebook, Twitch, they're all fired up. You got texts coming in as well. We'd love some calls. 613-413-2217. Here we go. David says, I sent an email letter of support to Doug Ford's office. Ann says, I sent one too. Sam chimes in. He says, I have never emailed the media until today, and I just had to comment on the unprofessional questions of Colin DeMello. I also sent an email to Premier Ford to offer my support and confidence. Some of the comments regarding that today. Nina says, at least poor Doug has the cojones to admit his mistakes and apologize. Heather says, you are so correct. Impose a travel ban immediately for now, all non-essential travel. It should have happened a year ago. Debbie says, the story I read this morning, Air Canada union concerned for employees concerned, sick in quarantining, other countries banning flights from India, and our Prime Minister is starting to look into it. Unbelievable. Nina says the Conservatives finally called on the Trudeau government to suspend all flights from hotspots, and we all know how that's going to go. Joshua says, and yet Vera Etches says curbside pickup is safe, but says it should be shut down, right? Put folks out of work. And David's got a good comment about Miss Tam. Didn't she also suggest we wear masks while having sex?
Well, no, that's a little unfair. What she said was that if you're having sex with a stranger, be a good idea to wear a mask, which probably not bad advice. Excuse me. Reference was made to a reporter, Colin DeMello. He's with CTV. What an asshole. I don't know if you saw the press conference. This guy is, well, I guess I should be careful the phrases I use here. Let's just say he was just trying to be a real smart guy, I guess, get his name out there and questioning Doug Ford. Some of the questions were reasonable, but let me just point something out about the media, okay? We all know that the Prime Minister has poured about $600 million into newspapers. So any chance of getting really fair coverage in the newspaper, with the possible exception of once in a while, The Sun, is pretty rare, okay? For the most part, the newspapers are going to be, they always were pretty well biased towards the Liberals anyway. We know that, but I sound like I'm whining. But let's deal with the CTV and CBC. First of all, I don't think CBC should be allowed. I think it should be illegal for the CBC to in any way comment politically. If they want to carry on, with the Schitt's Creek or whatever it is, that's fine. But, Aaron O'Toole, the Conservatives have served notice more than once, excuse me, that if elected, when elected, if ever, they will immediately reduce CBC funding considerably. I mean, it's very clear that the CBC has a direct, absolute conflict of interest. They know that if they support the Conservatives in any way and don't do everything they can to make Trudeau look good, that they're going to lose a lot of jobs. The Conservatives have threatened. So the CBC, as far as I'm concerned, should not be allowed to comment politically. I think it should be illegal. As far as CTV goes, now I just want to make something plain. A lot of people don't understand. That $600 million, none of it has gone directly to the television networks, okay? It's gone to print media, some print media. However, in the case of CTV relies 100% on federal largesse to exist. I mean, it's federally regulated, Bell Media, etc. They depend upon the goodwill of the federal government for virtually everything, from rate increases to policies, etc., and particularly these days. So there is no freaking way that either the CBC or the CTV would do anything but everything they can, overt and covert, to protect Justin Trudeau. I mean, it's only common. Use the old noggin, folks. Use the noggin. If you know that this government gets elected, you're going to lose a lot of jobs, maybe your job. What are you going to do? If you know that if this government gets elected, you may lose a lot of support. You may not be able to get that rate increase. They may not grant you that new license for a television. All of those things that they depend upon the federal government. What are you going to do? I just want you to keep that in mind.
That's a hell of a good point, Lowell.
I just want you to keep that in mind, okay? These people cannot be unbiased. It's just impossible for them to report anything politically in an unbiased fashion. It may appear that they are, but one of the things that, I've been at this game longer than almost anybody else out there. I've done it all, from wire service to television to radio, newsprint, newspaper, started a newspaper. I've been through it all. I know how it works. Been in Ottawa a long time. And that's how it works, folks. Sometimes it's not what you report, but what you don't report, or the manner in which you report it. This, that's what's key here. So don't expect, and I know this sounds like conservative one, do not expect under any circumstances fair coverage from anybody except Brian Lilly, some reporters in the Ottawa Sun, and that's about it. Everything else, liberal bias. I've got to take a break here. I keep talking about the fact that Shields right now has got a big sale on appliances, okay? If you go to shields.ca, and by the way, the name, it's Shield, S-C-H-E-E-L, furniture and appliance, but the website is Shields. There's a little bit of confusion. SCHEELS.ca if you're checking out the website, which is these days the best way to buy. You go to the website. It's a very well done website. You'll see it very, very accurate. Shows you pictures, descriptions of all of the products that you might be interested in, the price and the savings. And right now at Shields up there in Pakenham, big savings. I keep mentioning the fact that if you're working out of Pakenham, your costs are probably a little bit lower than, if you're a big box store. And by the way, I'm reading Facebook the other day, and this woman is complaining that she's ordered something from, I guess, one of the big box stores, an appliance, and she's had to wait 2 months now. Why the hell would you do that? If you order from Shields, you'll be dealing with a local company. Money stays local. They've got all of the product. The price will probably just as good, if not better, and the delivery will be in your house within 2 or 3 days. Why would you wait months for something you can get in a day or two at the same price or better? A lot of things beat the hell out of me, folks, and that's sure one of them. John, you've got some text coming in.
Sam says, DeMillo was looking for a soundbite. It was disgraceful. Magdi says, who cares about climate change when people are dying? Thanks, Trudeau. Julie says, no getting your COVID-19 shot booked in Ontario. It's a challenge. I felt like I was calling into a radio station to win concert tickets. Crazy, over 900 on the waiting list to get a shot here in Ottawa. Patricia says, last week I received a newsletter from the local MPP, Francis Drouin. He assures the population of Glengarry Prescott Russell that by the end of March, Canada shall have received 8 million doses of vaccines, and thereafter, a total of 36 million doses before the end of June. So, where are they? Our total population is over 37 million. Does this mean that everyone would receive one shot? Does he think that we're so dumb that we believe his wonderful news? Doug Ford has worked so hard for Ontario and has to pick up the insult and flack that should lie at Trudeau's door.
Let me thank you, John.
Yep, of course.
I know you've got lots more there. There's no question Doug Ford has made some mistakes, largely at the insistence. One of the things is that I thought Brian Lilly had a very good comment this morning. He points out that a lot of these things that are now being criticized have been recommended by health authorities, doctors, and in many cases the media. But he says when he suddenly implements tougher measures, everybody turns on him. Lilly suggests, and there may be some truth to this, that the real reason the media has now turned on him is because he shut off their tea times. Everything was fine, he says, until he closed the golf courses, and the media personalities and writers they've lost their tea times at the golf course. That's what they're really mad about, he says. Well, I don't know. At any rate, he's apologized. And as I say, I don't hear any apologies from anybody else. But I don't understand how Doug Ford can be the bad guy. He's not responsible for the terrible, inflow of vaccines here. That's Trudeau, 100%. I want to point something else out. Trudeau kept boasting about all the vaccines that he's ordered. Well, a good chunk of the vaccines that finally did arrive here had nothing to do with his original order that he was boasting about. There's about 350,000 came from COVAX, which is the independent agency that's supposed to supply third world nations. We stole from them. Apparently, we're going to get 1 million. We've also got some AZ apparently from the United States that they've been good enough to pass over here. So, how many of the vaccines? Anyway, I think you get my point. Something is wrong. Now, I have been saying all along, and there seems to be some confirmation in the Sun today, that in fact Trudeau never signed real contracts with these vaccine manufacturing. What he signed apparently or agreed to were options if supplies became available, and that's why we aren't getting any. Let me just point something out, okay? I'll be to Rob in just a minute on the phone. The UK, which started, I keep telling you this, started out exactly as we did. They had no domestic manufacturing of vaccines. They decided immediately, their government was smart, they decided immediately to begin domestic manufacturing. So today, the UK has now vaccinated about 3/4 of their entire population. More than half the people in the UK are fully vaccinated. In other words, have both shots. As a consequence, the UK is pretty well completely opened up, with infection rates now down to almost zero. The United States has now vaccinated 215 million people, actually 216 million people. They have received at least one shot. That's about 2/3 of the total population. About 1/3 have received both shots. In fact, 88 million Americans have now received both vaccine shots. And evidence of this, let me give you some evidence how effective. I told you what's happened. Well, Israel is wide open now, as you know. Almost everybody's been vaccinated there. The UK, pretty well open. As evidence of the good news from the United States. They still have a problem there, don't get me wrong. Right from the day one, most of them have never paid any attention to masks, etc. But the vaccines are winning out. Evidence of great news from the U.S. Listen to this. St. Louis, Missouri hospitals proudly announced this morning that for the first time since the pandemic broke out, they are not treating a single COVID patient. Our hospitals are jammed. ICUs are so jammed, they are now spreading out patients. They are helicoptering patients from Toronto, Peel, to Sudbury, to Ottawa, Kingston, Peterborough. But in St. Louis, Missouri, a state which, by the way, has about 2/3 of its citizens all vaccinated, not a single case, not one single case of COVID in a St. Louis, Missouri hospital. Why? Vaccines. Yes, John. We have you have Rob on the phone.
Yes, I do. Rob, go ahead. You're on with Lowell Green. Thanks for
Yes,
waiting.
Rob.
Thanks, Ron. Hi, Will. Yeah,
Yeah.
gee, I listened to a little bit of that interview at lunchtime with Doug Ford. I'll tell you, that was the most sickening, disgusting display of left-wing liberal bias in the media in this country that I have ever seen. I
Pretty
felt
bad.
so sorry for Doug Ford. I mean, we're used to the liberal bias. I get it. But those weren't questions they were asking. Those were accusations, insinuations, and said with such a venomous tone in their voice. I mean, that was disgusting. We sit up here on our high horses and point, Fox News, what a joke. It's on full display here in this country. And you know what? If a private broadcaster wants to do it, fine. I mean, if they want to throw any kind of journalistic integrity out the window and act and behave like that at a press conference, so disrespectful, that was disgraceful. But the CBC is taxpayer funded, and I'm really getting sick of seeing this kind of bias in our state broadcaster. That organization has to go completely.
Well, if Colin DeMello is CTV, they're getting almost as bad.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. It was disgusting.
Oh,
by the way,
God,
Rob, Rob,
yeah.
sorry, can I just ask a question here?
Sure.
I told you that 88 million Americans have now received 2 doses. As a matter of fact, these days they are vaccinating about 4 million people a day in the United States. Almost 2 million people a day are now receiving their second vaccine. 88 million Americans have now received both shots. What percentage of people in Canada do you think are fully vaccinated, have received? We're almost 5 months into this now. Any idea what percentage of our population?
I find what's being told to us is a bit confusing, but I'm going to say right around 3%.
It's not quite 3%, which I want to turn it around the other way. I hope that people in this country who are now critical of Doug Ford understand that 5 months into this, or almost 5 months into this, because the first came out in December 14th, first vaccine, almost 5 months into this, 97% of all Canadians are not fully vaccinated. Let me repeat that, please. 97% of us have not received our second shot. We are not fully vaccinated, and we have no assurance that with the 4-month delay that they have imposed, the only nation that's done this, 4 months delay, that those vaccines will have any effectiveness. I just want to repeat that one more time. 97% of us have not been fully vaccinated. And the bad guy is Doug Ford. Unbelievable. Yeah. Thank you, Rob. I couldn't agree with you more. So really appreciate the call. Thank you. John, you got some more. We're running short of time here.
We do. We've got quite a bit. Trudeau stood up in Parliament and claimed 25% of Canadians are not vaccinated. What a liar. I couldn't believe when I heard him say that. Thank God for Pierre Poilievre. That's a comment from Mike on your Facebook right now. Greg says we need to storm the Hill and demand Trudeau resigns. Kim is saying we need herd immunity to get out of this mess, so a vaccine or go get sick. Cindy says Quebec said they are going to mix shots now as they don't have enough Moderna vaccine. Oof. Chris said, not Doug Ford's problem. They're finger pointing at the wrong person. You want more?
No, that's fine. I couldn't agree with more. Just in closing, I want to say this. I got some criticism for the short shrift that I'm giving to people who write in, phone in, who are anti-vaxxers. Folks, I have absolutely lost patience in all of these anti-maskers, these anti-vaxxers. I have not only lost patience, but I am damn mad at them. The evidence is overwhelming. Look at Israel, look at the UK, look at the United States. Look what happens when we do what we are supposed to when we get vaccinated. The incidence goes way down. You're in St. Louis, and there's not a single case of it in any of the hospitals. So those people who still today, if that decision is yours, that's yours. But those people who are trying to spread this kind of vicious information, misinformation, I have no patience whatsoever. In fact, I think that people today who are trying to convince others not to get vaccinated, I think they're psychotic. I think there's something wrong with people who, in light of all of the evidence, still try to convince us that vaccines are wrong. I think you're sick. And don't try to get any sympathy or any empathy or any support from me. You will not. Believe me, I have no patience anymore. You are a risk to public health. If you publicly advise people not to get vaccinated, you are risking public health. You are psychotic. I'm sorry. We have to. All right, Greg, we have to stay a little longer. Greg, you're on the phone. Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Lowell.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make a comment. I know it's probably not practical, but really, to get rid of this Trudeau, I know you do a great job, but really what we have to do is get hundreds of thousands of people together and go up to the Hill and demand that we get rid of this bloody Trudeau, okay? I love your internet program, but it doesn't get out to enough people. We have to get up on the Hill and demand this. We can't continue going on like with these idiots that we've got running the country. That's all.
Well, we're not going to. I understand the sentiment. That's not going to happen. But there is a way to band together and get rid of them, sir. It's called a federal election. Thank you very much. I share your sentiments.
And by the way, Greg, share the show. Share the video on Facebook. Share the show. Connect your friends to blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. There you go. Sorry, Lowell.
Good advice.
I had to.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. I have to get a word in here from my other very faithful sponsor, Centennial Glass. God, they've been good to me over the years, and they continue. Not only good to me, but good to the community as well. They contribute a great deal. They're good people. They do business the right way. If they give you an estimate, they stick to it, even though their prices may have gone up. I mean, the price of lumber is soaring, as you know. So one more reason why I say, look, if you've got a job, you're thinking of maybe doing it sometime, even in the fall, can you give Centennial Glass a call right now? Get them to give you a quote now, and they will stick with it. You could save yourself a ton of money. You'll probably save money anyway, because Centennial Glass is a large corporate, large dealer. They're strictly local, but they'll give you a very good price on wonderful workmanship. CentennialGlass.ca here in Ottawa on Industrial Avenue and in Renfrew. John, I want to thank you. I know we've been flooded here with messages and phone calls. I want to thank everybody for taking part. And as John says, please, if you think this is the kind of program that's worth saving, help us. Let your friends and neighbors know. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Lowell Green, live on blasttheradio.com. Show info and links at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Subscribe to the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and more. Or ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. Join us live weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern on blasttheradio.com.